30 videos in 30 days, day 27. Do you like my new creative way to open these videos? I mean, we're in the final 4 videos, so I gotta try something new at this point. This question comes from a lot of you. I get many emails and messages, not just for this challenge, but just, this is a common question. And that's, what do we do when we're in the midst of our spiritual awakening and we find our relationships falling apart? Like really, close relationships, right? Like wives, husbands, partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, family members, and longtime friends. Speaking from my own experience, this was one of the most challenging things to deal with, was realizing that as I proceeded down my path and into my spiritual awakening and following my truth, it meant that not everyone was gonna follow me. Not everyone was gonna make it through the journey, and I did have to let go of a lot of friendships and a lot of relationships. Some of them came back. Some people found their way back into my orbit, surprisingly, and some of them I haven't spoken to since. And while it was difficult and it was painful in the moment, what I realize now on the other side of it is it was the best thing. Holding ourselves back in the hopes of trying to salvage something that really isn't ready to be salvaged or doesn't need to be salvaged or can't be salvaged, that creates pain and suffering for ourselves. I think it's important to acknowledge that it's difficult. I think it's important to acknowledge that it's painful. These are, oftentimes these are really, really deep connections and really, really deep attachments that we have with people, and that's never easy to let go of. But I can speak from experience. A spiritual awakening and a spiritual, walking in spiritual truth is not easy. It's not easy. That's why so few of us are actually consciously doing it. It's a difficult, challenging thing. And what I know more than anything is that the bulk of a spiritual experience is not about gaining anything. The bulk of a spiritual experience, in my opinion, is loss. It's letting go of these things that are no longer true. It's letting go of relationships that no longer vibe with us where we are. It's letting go of old patterns and old stories and old behaviors and old choices that just stand in the way and limit us. And I believe it is through our willingness to let these things go that allows us to see that the truth, the abundance, the flow, the excitement, the joy, the fulfillment, the purpose, it's already here. It's already been within us the whole time, and the bulk of our responsibility in a spiritual awakening and in a spiritual journey is to let go of the things that cover it up or stand in the way of it. There's a quote that I read the other day that said, we don't create abundance. Abundance is always here. We create blocks to abundance. And oftentimes these relationships stand in the way or become an obstacle to us moving forward on our path. And that's not to say that people are disposable or that relationships are disposable. There's some very real emotional loss here, but it's important to honor that when we are being called in a new direction, we have a choice. I can either stay put for the sake of trying to save something or hang on to something that isn't really for me anymore and create a lot of suffering for myself and a lot of pain for myself, or I can face the pain and suffering of leaving and trust that on the other side of that is a greater purpose, a greater truth, and a greater alignment with who I am. I think there's a couple of things that I'll share with you in terms of how we can perhaps put ourselves in a context where it allows us to see how the loss of these relationships makes sense. The first one is that, I talk about this a lot, is don't focus so much on the thing that isn't working. Focus on the thing that is calling you forward and allow water to find its own level. And what I mean by that is oftentimes, as I continue to show up and focus on the new truth, focus on the new passion, focus on the new direction, these relationships just sort of fall away. Suddenly we don't have time for each other anymore. Suddenly we can't line up our schedules. Suddenly the thing you want to do, I'm like, I don't really want to do that anymore. Suddenly we just find ourselves sort of moving in 2 different directions, and that relationship sort of lovingly and of its own accord just finds its own level, and we just move on in 2 different directions. And it doesn't have to be a big dramatic falling out. There's no fight, there's no disagreement. It's just you sort of turn around one day and realize like, oh, I haven't heard from him or her in weeks and months. So allowing these relationships to find their own level by continuing to focus on what is coming up for you as truth, oftentimes that resolves the relationship without us really having to do anything. I think one of the perspectives that we can take when it comes to family, and oftentimes this can be the trickiest one, because for many of us, we can't just let our family go. For many of us, it's really difficult to say, well, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to see you anymore. Sometimes that's what it requires. If it's about us in a really toxic or unhealthy family dynamic, and we just got to say, look, look, as much as it pains me to move out of this or to remove myself from this, it's more painful for me to stay. But I think asserting our truth, this is the key. Asserting our truth can happen in a couple of ways. Asserting our truth energetically is kind of what I was just talking about. When I continue to focus on what is true for me now, sometimes that just creates an energetic shift where we just sort of, move out of each other's awareness. But there is oftentimes a requirement or a call to speak our truth, especially with family or people that we're really, really close to, like a partner or a husband or a wife. And it can go something like this. You use your own words, but this is just as an example. Hey, I know that in the past, I have always been the one who does this, or who says yes to this, or who agrees with you on this. But I've been going through some changes in my life, and suddenly I'm finding myself called to new things, and that isn't something that I want to do anymore, or that isn't something that feels true for me anymore, or to be honest, I don't really agree with you anymore. I know that maybe it's kind of, alarming, or seems strange, or is very surprising that I'm speaking out in this way, and it feels kind of unusual and uncomfortable for me too, but I have to be honest about this is just kind of how I feel at this moment, and this is what I'm aware of, and when I have more information, I'll be happy to share it with you. If I had a greater explanation, I'd be happy to share it with you, but at this point in time, all I can say is I don't really agree with that anymore, and that's not something that I want to do, or something that I want to agree to, or something that I want to participate in, right? So I think the key here is to allow ourselves to be where we are. Sometimes the truth is incomplete. Sometimes when I'm in the midst of a big expansion and I'm growing and changing like crazy, it's like growing pains when you're a teenager. I remember one summer, I grew like 3 or 4 inches. I went through like 2 to 3 shoe sizes in, a period of 3 to 4 months. I went through, different inseams. I was wearing high waters for months because my mom was like, you are going through clothes like crazy and I can't keep up. So we're gonna outgrow sometimes things very, very rapidly, and our truth is going to shift really quickly sometimes. So if the best that you can offer in the moment is sort of an incomplete truth or an explanation that says, look, I don't know why I feel this way, and I don't know if I'm gonna feel the same way tomorrow or even this afternoon, but what I do know is that right now, this is what I know, this is how I feel, and this is what I've gotta do or speak or take action on. I think ultimately, figuring out how to deal with the new truth and how it affects our relationships is a personal thing. I think that the challenge here is to understand that it's not necessarily going to be easy, and that it's okay if it's difficult. It's okay if there's a little bit of pain, because we are letting go of some of these relationships that have been like an anchor or a security blanket or a touchstone, right? Or a corner of sort of the structure of the life we have built for ourselves. But understanding that oftentimes in order to receive the new thing, I have to be willing to let go of the thing that's no longer working. And sometimes it is the letting go of it that allows me to evolve and you to evolve, and we realize that, oh, we still do have some common ground, and we can come together now with sort of an expanded or revised or purified or clarified version of our relationship. But I think that one of the things that I learned really early on, and one of the messages that was coming through a couple of years ago in sessions with clients and in my own life, was that in a spiritual journey, you don't have to let go of everything, but you must be willing to let go of everything. Sometimes it doesn't make sense as to why do I need to go on? Why do I need to leave? Why do I need to move beyond? And oftentimes we don't have that answer until we get there. Oftentimes things only make sense in hindsight. Oftentimes we just have to be willing to show up that, the way that I feel in terms of what is calling me forward is stronger than my desire to stay. It doesn't necessarily make it any easier. It doesn't necessarily make it any less painful, but if I can at least believe and have faith that there is a reason for this to occur, there is value in this happening, that oftentimes can be enough to say, all right, I can just trust that anything that I am being asked to let go of is because it is moving me towards something greater, and I just have to trust and believe that on the other side of that is a greater expanded perspective of who and what I am, and a more clarified, rarefied version of my life. And if that means that I have to let go of some of these relationships, then that's what it means. doesn't necessarily make it any easier, but I think that's part of the deal, is that sometimes we need a challenging experience in our life to remind us of how powerful we really are. And oftentimes our leaving a relationship can also be the catalyst for someone else's growth and expansion. Thank you so much for the question. I hope that this helps.